Welcome, everybody, to episode 62 of Mr. Robin's Hood podcast, coming to you digitally from Studio C, located within a dead gopher's throw from hole number 2 of the Woodward Municipal Golf Course in Woodward, Oklahoma. It is I, your fearless co-host and full-time fool, Robin Hohweiler, or Mr. Robin to you. And I'm joined, as always, by my usually coherent co-host, angst-inducing collaborator with a bit of a hangover, maybe.
How did you know I was going to have one?
It was a lucky guess.
Oh my gosh. And you know what? I'm not even like that bad. I'm not even, look how cute I am.
And all-around best pal, Mikel Mauree Robinson, known throughout the podcasting uni as Mikey-on-the-Mic.
Woo!
Woo, woo, woo.
I'll do my own.
We're sucking for sound today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stuff is not working as stuff should be working.
Yeah.
So stuff needs to get a new job. Just saying.
You know, Mikey, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it.
Oh, I'm scared for this.
Folks, you know how Mikey rolls.
No, you don't. You have no idea.
I'm just going to spill the beans. If we don't, it'll be plastered all over Woodward News' site by tomorrow morning.
They better not.
About that. So let's beat those smug thug news ninjas to the punch. So, Mikey got pinched for the second Friday in a row at the Mitchell Lakeside 6 Theater. Her dastardly deed? Trying to smuggle in a jumbo box of Hot Tamales candy under a hefty alpaca wool poncho. Talk about a spicy fashion choice. An eagle-eyed ticket attendant with ears
eagle-eyed
sharper.
There are no eagle-eyed attendants at Mitchell Theaters.
With ears sharper than a bat's radar, picked up the telltale rattle of candy. Mikey, in a master stroke.
No, they sniffed it out. Like, I smell them mollies.
Mikey, in a master stroke of disguise, was posing as Chapel Roan to avoid recognition.
I'm gonna keep on dancing at the Pink Pony Club.
Having been caught red-handed the week before, and now sporting a lifetime ban from the cinema. She thought she was slick, chuckled assistant manager Todd Thorndike.
Todd Thorndike? Oh, poor Todd.
Our staff is trained to sniff out contraband candy like snack-seeking bloodhounds. And besides, who the hell wears a heavy wool poncho to Woodward, Oklahoma, when it's 102 degrees outside?
It was hotter.
Mikey was escorted out in handcuffs, hollering, "They charge $6 for Raisinets, and they have the gall to frisk me for candy? A double lifetime ban from the theater? That's unconstitutional. This is America, folks.
You're violating my First Amendment rights."
Pick up. Theater management, however, stood firm on their zero-tolerance candy policy, firmly asserting their right to banish snack rebels for life. For those keeping track, Mikey has lawyered up and vows to sue the, quote, living bejesus out of those Hollywood pandering punks, unquote. And yes, she's already armed herself with a fresh jumbo box of Hot Tamales. Stay tuned. Over to you, Mikey.
Well, I'll tell you where to put those Hot Tamales. You're talking about that reminds me of Bob's Burgers, where, I'm forgetting everybody's name. Dang it. One of the characters in there,
Camera went out. That's okay. Don't worry.
It did? It died.
Yeah.
It died. A slow death. But, I can't remember the guy's name. He's in there all the time, eating at Bob's Burgers. That's horrible. Anyhow, he wants to sneak in some burgers to the movie theater in this episode. He's trying to figure out how. And Linda's like, well, you can use my, and she had these, just laugh, like a hairnet before her armpits. And she's like, you can sneak them into the net and wear them, my armpit nets or whatever. I don't know. And then Bob had a vest, which in hindsight, I feel like this was like the more legitimate idea, but he'd just taped the plastic bags into the vest and had like, he's like, you could just build your burger when you get there, so no soggy buns, so like he had like the burger in one, lettuce in one, but he just had them taped so they kept falling down. And oh gosh, whatever character, I can't think of his name right now, is like, well, I don't know, maybe I just won't sneak a burger in, and you're talking about the hot tamales, and I'm thinking I want to try to do what the Bob's Burgers. I want to sneak a whole burger into the movie theater now. So that's my next venture. Okay.
So
Yeah.
Say howdy to our movie theater contraband smuggling audience, Mikey.
Howdy. How's that? Was that good?
Yeah, it'll work. So we're joined today by Dr. Jesse Schroeder, who is an assistant professor of communication at Northwestern Oklahoma State University in Alva. Dr. Schroeder has extensive experience in both education and television news, where he learned that success in his chosen fields requires creativity, resilience, and a passion for challenges. He also hosts a podcast titled Masterclass Media Matters, where he interviews professionals across the media industry. Beyond his work in education and media, he helps manage his family's business, Plainview Brine, which I believe is in Freedom. He also serves as a certified EMT on the National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians. Dr. Schroeder, welcome.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm excited to visit with both of you today.
Great.
Well, we're happy to have you. So just to kind of brief on the background here, I met you officially when I was in college, because then you were a professor in the mass comm department, as you've come back to, but you've gone and done other things. And even before you were, the professor, I know you had done some things before that in media. So I feel like the first questions we want to ask is, where it all started, from you graduating high school, going on to college, and then, your first kind of endeavors in your media career. So I'll have you start there.
Sure. All right. I can absolutely do that. Yeah, my path in my career has been kind of winding, as I think many folks in this industry kind of experience. I was one of the very fortunate people that when I graduated high school, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. A lot of folks go off to college, right? A lot of folks go off to college and they're like, I have no idea what I want to do. There's all these options, and they have that worry and fear that if they make the wrong decision on a major, that they're going to mess up their entire life, which is not the case. Right. Just get started. That's what I always tell people. But I knew that I wanted to go into the broadcasting world. Probably during my junior high years, I had met a couple of people who worked in broadcasting. It really fascinated me, and was kind of hooked from that point forward. So I went to school at Northwestern and majored in mass communication. During that time, worked in the radio industry at a radio station in Woodward, and then did some voice work here and there for some other places. And then, of course, was involved in the campus media there at Northwestern. Graduated a few years back in 2003 and started working, just a couple years ago. Started working in the industry, actually in radio. My first full-time position was at the Right Radio Network in Weatherford, Oklahoma. And so served as an anchor and news director, creating newscasts for 3 different radio stations that they own. After that, went to Lawton, Oklahoma, and that was my first full-time position in the television side. And I worked as a producer reporter there for a little while before getting the call to come back to Northwestern as a teacher. During that time, I had been working on my master's degree. Completed that shortly after I accepted the position at Northwestern. So we moved back to Alva, and I taught for 8 years in the mass comm program. And Mikel, I think that's when you and I met.
Yeah. And then it was like a small world because you were from Freedom, and then your sister actually, everybody in my class had your sister as a kindergarten teacher, but I didn't because I didn't move there till 4th grade. But then my little brother had your sister. And so, kind of full circle. But yeah, I came to Northwestern in 2007 and I graduated in December of 11. And I think you were there the whole time I was, correct?
Yes, I should have been. I was there from 2006 to how long was I there? 2006
Right.
to 2014, I think.
Okay, yeah. So, because I was thinking, I remember hearing about you leaving, and I was, well, one, I was sad for the department because you left, and then, Melanie Wilderman and Ted Satterfield did as well. And I felt very fortunate to have you guys because you're all very varied and talented people in what you do in the broadcast world. And I was kind of like, I kind of knew what I wanted to do also.
Right. You knew you wanted to do something fun like mass communication.
Exactly.
Yeah. You mentioned Ted and Melanie. They're both doing well. I keep in touch with them. They're both at OU now. Dr. Wilderman teaches in the journalism and communication program there. So, but so as you mentioned, Mikel, after I started teaching at Northwestern, I didn't really get to, I guess, practice is what I call it. My broadcasting career as much as I wanted to before I went into the classroom. I knew that's where I probably would end up teaching, but I just hadn't done the actual practice of it enough. So in 2014, I was offered a position to become a morning news anchor in Texas. So my family and I picked everything up, moved to Texas, and I served as a morning news anchor at KXII for 4 years. And then I also, from there, worked in education some as well as doing that. Then we ended up in Tyler, Texas, where I was the main evening anchor in Tyler for KTRE, and then I also worked for KLTV. They're a duopoly there in the Tyler market. And did evenings there for a couple of years, and then we decided at that time it was time for us to return home to Northwest Oklahoma. It just so happened that the position that I had at Northwestern was open.
That's great.
And so I reached out to Professor Tamara Brown, who is still the chair of the program, and I
remember her.
And she was like, "Come on back." And so interviewed for the job, and they were, I guess, happy to have me come back, and I was excited to come back home as well.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of curious if there was, a specific prompt that brought you back. I wasn't sure how that had gone because I saw that you'd come back because I keep up. I mean, I keep up with Melanie and Ted as well, and you. So I'm just a little stalker. Just kidding, but I saw that you would come back.
What we do in this business,
right? I saw that you'd gone back, and I was like, "Oh, that's amazing!" And I didn't know, if they had reached out to you and was like, "We're looking," or if you just decided that it was time to come back to Oklahoma from Texas.
It was kind of all of that. Yeah, during the time that I had been gone, I stayed in touch with Professor Brown. And every now and then she would shoot me an email and say, "Hey, if you're ever interested in coming back." And it just wasn't the right time. I was still moving forward there in the media industry in Texas. But yeah, it was partially that. I mean, the position was open and available. My family and parents, like I said, I was born and raised in Northwest Oklahoma. They have a large farming and ranching operation, and they're getting older. And so myself and then my oldest son, who actually has an interest, he'll be a senior at Northwestern in ag business is his major.
Great.
He helps with the farm and ranch operation. So there was that. And then I would also say that I would say one of the biggest reasons that we were able to even consider it is my wife is a vice president for a company in Texas, and she does learning and development for this company, and they allowed her to work remote.
Oh, wonderful.
And so that honestly is what even allowed us to consider even moving back, because her career and position was able to just move with us. And so once we were able to do that, we were like, all right, then I guess that's what we'll do.
That's wonderful. Well, there are a couple things I remember just that stuck out to me when I was in the mass comm department and getting my degree, is a class that you had taught, the radio practicum. And I remember specifically, we were talking about the old equipment. Like, you would actually, to really appreciate the people in the industry years ago, it was like one of those things where you had said, like, this is what they used to have to do, and we were all just like, what? Because we had grown up and, where computers were a thing already. So all of that splicing, like whenever I was in going into high school, they'd already done away with like the dark room. So I didn't get to experience that. I was just like on that cusp. And I remember you explaining that they would have to splice the tape to edit. And I just remember sitting there thinking, like, that's insane. And then
you're like, why would anybody have chosen to go into the industry back then, right?
Exactly. But I was it gave me an appreciation, and I appreciated that you had kind of, told us, yeah, this is what they used to do, but this is what we do now. And you had us do like an ad, like a radio ad. And when I cut that ad, that moment was like, that's when I knew I wanted to be in radio, which I'm not now. But now I'm podcasting, which is kind of like the same kind of thing ish, using those same skills.
It's just all evolved.
Yeah. And I had asked you, and you had told me that you had worked at a station here. I ended up working at the other stations, but I just, that was one thing I remembered, and I wanted to bring that up to you because it's something that's stuck in my mind. And talking to you now, it's like, it's weird because I'm in a different place as well in my career. Now I'm the director of the museum. And people are like, you don't have a history degree? And I'm like, but the degree I have, I use a lot in what I'm doing, which you wouldn't think, but I still, sometimes fill in on the radio, but I go and do interviews and talk about the museum and use those skills and all of my marketing to get people in the door there.
And she does very well.
Thank you.
She does do very well.
I appreciate that. So I was curious because I feel like I know you did radio, but I feel like you did kind of delve more into like the TV. I was curious if radio is still something that you're really passionate about, or if which one is kind of the top of the cake now in terms of what you enjoy.
That's a really good question. I've been really fortunate that I have enjoyed each step, I guess, of the process in my career. I think radio is probably the most fun that I've had. And, that could have been because I was in radio when I was younger.
Right.
That had something to do with it. But yeah, I always enjoyed the radio side of things. And then when I worked in television, like I said, my first position anchoring was a morning show. So I went into work at 3:30 in the morning. And then we were on the air from 5 to 7 and did the morning show. And that was really fun as well, but in a different way. because, news, I mean, so you have that serious aspect of it,
Right.
but with morning TV, there were still fun components. So we would have cooking segments or we would have
Right.
guest interviews. And so that was fun. And then, once that evolved and I moved on to Tyler and became the evening anchor there, it was just different. I wouldn't necessarily say, as far as the newscast goes, that it was fun, but there were just new challenges.
Right.
Sure.
You get to do more investigating. You get to do, like, if there was a horrific event like a tornado or something, and then as an anchor, getting to go and field report from that, or go up in the chopper and be sharing with folks the information that they needed to know, things they needed to do to keep their family safe. So it was a whole different level. So I wouldn't necessarily say that was fun,
Right.
that aspect of it, but you felt the importance of it. You knew people were relying on you to
Right.
get that information, to stay safe or to do what they needed to do. So it brought about that responsibility aspect of what the media can provide.
Right.
So it's kind of all been different, and I've enjoyed every step. But when you mention what is the most fun,
Mhm.
I think my days in radio
Yeah.
were definitely the most fun.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I did this call-in. It was the Friday night free for all. It was a call-in show, and even to this day, Jesse, it's funny. I had a kid come in, and he said, "Oh my god," because my name was Ginger, is what I did, because my boss was like, "Well, you can't use your real name," which I'm glad I didn't, because I was getting fan mail from, William S. Keys, and I'm like, they're mailing it, and they know I'm in here live on a Friday night, so I'm having my husband drop me off and pick me up because I was afraid they were going to be out there waiting for me. So,
Mhm.
but I still laugh about that. I don't even know
Isn't
where
it
I was
crazy
going
how
with
some
that.
people are?
Yes.
I am to spur off of what you were just saying there. The first moment that I realized, I mean, obviously working in television, I knew people were seeing me on TV,
Right.
and that possibly they would recognize me in public. But I honestly, and I don't necessarily know why, but I never thought about that. I never thought about the aspect of people knowing me or anything like that. It was just
Yeah.
a job.
Yeah.
Well, I one morning had talked about my youngest, our daughter. She had lost her first tooth,
Oh.
and so I talked about that on the show that morning. Well, then later that day, she and I had gone to the grocery store to pick up some stuff, and people were coming up to us wanting her to show them her missing tooth and all
That's
of that kind of
funny.
stuff. And I don't know why, but it kind of weirded me out.
Yeah.
I was like,
Well, it is a little
what?
creepy. Yeah.
Yeah,
It can
yeah.
be.
And so from that moment forward, I hardly ever talked about my family, just because I was like, okay, people are going to actually listen to
Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so no, I get what you're saying about the folks at William S. Keys
Yeah.
wanting to reach out.
Yeah. Yeah, one was like, "Send me a picture and I'll draw you," which I have some really cool artwork, and I'm just like, "I don't want you to know what I look like," One was like, "I'm getting out, meet me at the park." I'm like, "No." But they started
I
out
want to be
like,
your friend.
yeah, sending me these letters to request, songs for the show because they could listen on Friday night. Well, then at some point they got smart and they started like calling, and when the collect call was like, so and so, and then it gives you the time where they can say their name. Well, instead they would be like Alice Cooper or Led Zeppelin, or like they would like use that to, and finally it got ridiculous.
Request.
And we had to reach out to the warden, and we were like, listen, like they're abusing this, like it's bad. Like it was like,
Mhm.
for 2 hours, 3 hours straight, they were calling me, and nobody else could get a call in, and it was crazy. But, yeah, the people kind of getting to know you, and that's, I guess, where I was going with that, because I haven't been on the radio since 2017. Now, I filled in some, but it's been that long ago, and this kid figured out who I was, and it was like it was crazy because they feel like they know who you are, and you're like, I barely even know you, but they listen to you every day, and yeah, people do get connected. And if you tell them things about your family, they do listen, and they'll bring that up. It's crazy, and to think that you're such a public entity is interesting, because you don't when you're doing it, you don't think about it like that. Or at least, I didn't. It doesn't sound like you did either.
No, it never. I mean, it would cross my mind. I mean, of course, I was aware of what I was doing, but it wasn't important to me, I guess, because some people, they want that aspect of, I want to be recognized. I want all of that. And that was never, a drive for me. I did have one of my mentors tell me once that you do have to be careful in that regard, especially, in the heyday, I guess we would say, of television, when that was the primary medium that everybody went to. Because she would tell me, she would say, you've got to remember that people are in their home. They're usually very comfortable, hanging out, and your face is on sometimes a 54 or a 60-inch television screen in their living room. And they feel like you're just there talking to them. And so they build that relationship with you, even though you have no idea who they are.
Exactly.
And I think that's even kind of evolved now that digital has taken over and, is kind of surpassing TV in that regard, where people are able to even have more of an intimate relationship. They can reach out and communicate with you now, where it used to be, in mass comm, we were kind of a one-way channel. We gave you the information, do with it what you want. And now your audience can talk back to you. And so there can be even more of that interaction, and with social media. And so people feel like they get to know you, even on a greater scale, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I am curious, from, where you started teaching from, 2006 to 2014. And I think it's great that you've, left and worked in the actual industry, because I feel like that gives you more as a teacher, because you have those experiences. Because I remember, even when I was there, and your experiences with radio and telling me, talking to me about it, it was, I don't know, it just made it more, I don't know, real, because I'm like, oh, they've actually done this. What he's teaching me, he's actually done. And then you went back into TV, and now you're back to teaching. But my question is, where have you feel like it's evolved from when you were teaching, mass comm classes back in 2006 to 2014, and now you're back here in 2024, 2025, and I know you're evolving, because we'll get to your podcast and masterclass, because that's a new thing, and back when I was in school, podcasting wasn't a huge thing like it is now. And so I'm just curious to hear kind of your take on how, the industry has evolved, and you having to evolve with your teaching.
Sure. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because I do think it's important, especially in an industry like ours, to have actually done the work that you're teaching. I mean, yeah, you can learn a lot from a textbook and learn from people who have done it, and then share that same information with a new audience. But I mean, it seems like on a daily basis, whenever school's in session and I'm in the classroom, that I will say, okay, guys, this is what your textbook says. Here's the reality of it. Here's what's really going to happen. And, that normally comes into play with writing. Textbooks, a lot of times they're like, oh, come up with an idea, and then share that idea with your producer, and then start your first draft. And then it's like, that's never going to happen. You're going to go out, you're going to try to get some interviews. You're going to have 15 minutes before air to slam a script together, and you're going to hope it makes sense for your audience. I mean, that's the
like
reality.
A typical podcast for us.
Yeah.
Right. We're just going to go on the air and see what happens. We'll do it live, right?
Right.
I'm pretty good at winging it.
Just always have your outs. Always know how you're going to get out of it.
There you go.
So yeah, I do definitely agree with you that, getting that real world experience has helped me a lot, especially on the TV side. Like you mentioned, I had worked in radio some, and so I had that experience to share. Um, but television, I knew that I wanted to go in that direction. And so being able to then work in that industry and actually do it has helped me greatly be able to be a better educator now to students who want to go in that
In
direction.
that direction, yeah.
Now you mentioned the changes. Oh man.
It's a lot, isn't
I
it?
just yes, and I feel like, every industry experience has changed. And it seems like, though, in communication, it is just so rapid.
Yeah, I
There's
agree.
something new that we need to do on a daily basis, and our audiences are wanting more.
Yeah.
I have students sometimes who get frustrated because they're like, there's just less people listening to traditional radio, and that's what I want to do. And there's less people watching broadcast television, and I wanted to be a news reporter. Well, the thing is what I remind people, the audiences are still there. They're just moving around.
Yeah.
We have to find them and reach them where they're at. Okay, so they're not listening to maybe broadcast radio as much as they used to. But like you mentioned earlier, Mikel, podcasts continue to grow.
Yeah.
And millions of people are listening to podcasts on a daily basis. So find your audience there. Find your audience in that digital world. That's one thing that I have changed a lot when I came back. You mentioned radio practicum, that class earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That is now broadcast practicum. So
Okay.
it's kind of broadened a little bit. But I focus a lot more on us creating content that we would still use on television, but that also plays well on social media and online.
Yep.
That is where our people are at. We do still do a printed newspaper within our department, but again, everything that goes in that printed newspaper also goes on our app and our website.
Yep. Okay.
Well, that's where majority of the people, are reading that content. So it's really, there's not less audience. There's actually the same audience. You just have to find them and provide them with that content. And that's what we are. We're content creators.
Yeah,
So,
that's very true. And you almost have to kind of cross post now where, back it was people were, getting it from the TV, and that was it. It was, traditional TV. They didn't have, Hulu Live or whatever. They didn't have all these other different ways to get TV. And so same kind of with radio. Traditional or terrestrial radio, or however you want to put it. Terrestrial. I can't speak today. That was what I was trying to say, but is
and those traditional forms of media, they still serve such a vital role, though. I mean, if we have a major catastrophe in our country, people still turn to television to find out what's going on. Yeah. When it comes to local sports, high school sports and stuff, nobody does that better than your local radio stations.
Right.
So depending on what your audience is wanting, local broadcast radio and I call them the mom and pop radio stations or the smaller owned stations, they are still doing fairly well. Because they figured out how to harness, what they're good at, and they've harnessed social media. And so some of those radio stations are still being, fairly profitable.
Yeah.
So it's, like I said, it's just finding that audience and giving them what they want.
Well, and I agree with that too. And there's things on like the radio, especially here, that they do different contests. Like when I was on the Q Morning Zoo, we had, and they still do this, but Under Pressure, and it goes up $5 every day. And, if they don't answer the question, and it's like, in 5 seconds or less, here's the question, and you have to come up with 3, answers to the question. And
Did you play the song Under Pressure while you did that?
oh yeah, we have the intro, the whole thing, and so people and it's always at the same time. It's 7:45, between 7:45 and 7:50 every morning, and Monday through Friday, but people will just. Maybe they're not tuning in right at 7 when the show comes on, but they're going to tune in at 7:45 because they're going to play Under Pressure. And then they may stay and listen to the rest of the show until 9. It's interesting, those little niches. And then like at Christmas time, they do like a giveaway and things like that. And people will just listen or go just for, those certain things. And like when I did the Friday night free for all, people would just tune in on Friday nights because they wanted to call in and be able to request a song and hear it. Or like, want to have a dedication and things that you can't get in other realms. But yeah, I feel like all of the industries have evolved. I am curious your take on, because I do see newspaper in the print version becoming something that's going to go away. And I don't know how long that is going to be. Like, for instance, the Woodward News now only prints on Wednesdays. But digitally, they do Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Is that what it is? Or
they're down to digital. It's one day also.
No, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they will post updates on their website.
Well, I was thinking they were still producing something digitally on 3 days and just printing one. Okay, I must have. See, I don't even know what's going on half the time. Apparently, I'm not keeping up with that.
It's hard to keep up.
Yeah, so
they're close to pitching over face first, I suspect.
Huh.
Oh.
Well, I hate to hear that.
Yeah, I know that I find it's one of those things where the newspapers that didn't fight the change to digital are the ones that are still finding success.
Yeah.
Those who wanted to fight it and be like, nope, I am not embracing social media. I am not embracing a digital platform because we are real journalists and we print our news in the newspaper.
Right.
Those are the folks that are going away. Yeah. Sadly, I mean, because they provided such a service, but you have to embrace that digital aspect because, like I said, that's where your audience is at. There is not one student. I don't want to say that. There's very few students that I have now that are in my classroom that watch a television newscast every day. Nearly every student that I have, they get their information from a news organization that they follow on social media, or they have their phone set up to where if there's breaking news or something that they get an alert sent to their phone. Even folks who don't care about news, if they only watched the news or listened to the radio for the weather, well, now they get that on their phone. They're able to check it from there. But again, that content is having to be provided from something. Sure. There's a source. And so it's just finding that audience and embracing it. And, the Woodward News, since you mentioned them, that's how I keep up with what's going on in Woodward, is through their social media. And if there's something going on in town, I get the update from social media. And then if I want to read more about it, I can click on the link and then it goes to their digital platform. I don't subscribe to their printed paper. So digital just seems to be the place that everybody's going. And so either embrace it or
go down in flames. Yeah, or go down in flames.
Right. And so many industries have done that. I mean, look at the retail business.
Oh,
I would say my family shops more online than we do in a physical store.
Yeah.
And it just shows up to our house.
Yeah.
Well, if a store hasn't adapted to that, well, they no longer have my business.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like we all have to adapt. We can't sit back and be sad and be like, oh man, we're losing the audience in the television world. Now what are we going to do? Well, find them. They're there.
Yeah.
You just got to track them down.
Yeah. And figure out, how they want to receive that information. because like you said, they're still receiving it in some way, shape, or form, and a lot of that's becoming done digitally. We're moving now to the museum to email marketing. We just got signed up for that, and we're trying to move through that. And I don't want to like spam up anybody's inbox. We're only planning to maybe do like 2 or 3 a month, but I feel like some of the when we send out postcards and things like that, people are not really they're not looking at it in that print form, I think. It's coming to them. I mean, I'm kind of old school. I still enjoy that. I like to put it on my fridge or whatever, but I'm very much aware that not everybody else is like that. And some people would rather have an email or a text message saying, "Hey, we have a new art exhibit in the museum," rather than me send something in the mail. And then with the cost of, the stamps going up as they've just continued to do, and to add the service to our subscription on our website is like, oh, well, I pay that's like 1 book of stamps for a whole year, so it's like we're trying to kind of adapt to that as well. And I like how you said this industry, it's so rapid in the way that it's moving as far as having to
I mean, because like we've mentioned, digital is where it's growing and where it's at. And within that digital realm, you can also have, the social media aspects, which there's new social media being created, or they're changing their algorithms or the way that they want to function. So it's almost more like now, instead of just having a set audience that you get to present information to, part of the challenge in our industry is also figuring out how you get that information in front of them. Not only how do we find them, but then how do we work with the algorithms within Facebook or Instagram to where it actually shows up to your audience. So, so that's a whole nother, we actually just added a class. We've done some changes with our curriculum and just added a class that will focus on just social media and how we read algorithms and data and, go from there. It used to be where we looked at ratings. And, your average quarter hour in radio to know what your audience was doing. Well, you can track your audience even closer now with digital, but it just brings in that whole new aspect of how do we track them and how do we get that content in front of them.
Yeah, no, for sure. I want to talk to you about your podcast. Because I still keep up, with the goings on at Northwestern, and I follow the social media and all of that stuff, and I see your, master classes, what you call it, media master class. Is that what it's called? Am I right? Popping up, and I'm just like, oh, that Jesse, look at him. I was like, that's amazing. But I'm curious because I know that's obviously something you're doing within your class. So I know you're the host, but I'm like, Robin and I, we're like, we need an intern. We need somebody to help us, because there's a lot that goes into producing a podcast. I mean, you're reaching out to people to interview, and you're scheduling those, and then the editing and the everything else. And so I'm assuming you have some of your students kind of doing that stuff for you. And so I'm curious to kind of hear about, the start of the podcast, your inspiration or how it started, and then kind of your structure and how it works, and you bringing in the students to help with that.
Sure. We, whenever you were there, we had a radio studio, and we have a TV studio, and then of course the newsroom where the newspapers put together. We still have all of that set up. Our radio studio has now been converted into a full podcast studio now.
Cool.
So that setup is available for students to be able to use, just like the radio station was whenever you were there.
Yep.
So if they want to have their own podcast, they're able to go in there and produce that. There are, assignments and things that I put out there in my classes, for students to go in there to get familiar with the equipment and to create things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's also used in that regard. But what I noticed after my first year back, like we've talked about, podcasts continue to grow. More and more audience members are finding genres or things that they're interested in and want to hear about. And so that's just a growing area of our industry. And so I wanted to put more emphasis on that. And so I would, make the assignments and I would do those things. But I feel like it's one of those areas that if I'm not doing it, how can I expect the students to go in there and do it. And so that was one element that sparked, I guess, my interest or idea in developing a podcast. I also, a couple of other things I don't know that I teach a media literacy portion in my intro to mass comm class. And I feel like that is something that is so important for our society. And I couldn't find any information out there where that was being done. Media gets a bad rap sometimes, a lot of times.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, from people who don't understand it.
Yeah.
And so, that was another reason that I wanted to do this. And plus, I wanted it to just be a learning platform for my students. So it's very multifaceted.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to see the production of it and understand the creative side and that side, but then they're also able to learn from professionals that are working in the industry. Because as you mentioned at the very beginning, the folks that I interview are people that are currently working in the industry,
mm-hmm.
and we can learn from them. How do they see the industry changing? What do students need to know in order to enter this industry and be successful? All of those types of things. And so kind of all of those aspects coming together. And then that's what, eventually started the launch of it all. I do use select students,
mm-hmm.
some, in the production of it at this point.
Yeah.
I am, and my students would agree, I can be pretty picky about my work. And I want it to be done well.
Yep.
And so I am pretty hands-on with the podcast that I put out there, the Masterclass Media Matters.
Mm-hmm.
Will that eventually evolve? And if I have a student who, is really excelling in that area, I absolutely will turn over more of the editing and putting it together to them. But right now it's primarily used more as a teaching tool as far as the content goes that the professionals are sharing.
Well, I've been listening to it. I'm interested, and it's funny because like a couple, well, for sure one off the top of my head that I still follow what he's doing that you interviewed, and goodness, his name is eluding me right now. Goodness.
Well, I don't want to say it in case it's not the right one. Did you go to school with him?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Joseph Perez.
Joseph, yes, Joseph.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm like, why is his name eluding me? Yeah, because I still follow him on social media or whatever.
Yeah, he was a great interview.
Yeah, it was really good. And I remember, what's funny is when, I'm in school with him or whatever, I remember thinking, he's going to do great things. Like, you can just kind of pinpoint, even as just a peer, I'm like, he's going to go places and do great things.
Yeah, he actually, I don't know that I can say what his next venture is.
Right.
Most recently, he has been at the Fox station in Houston. He was the 6 p.m. newscast producer in Houston. I can tell you that has changed, and he is getting ready to move into an executive producer position in a new city.
Wonderful.
So he is on the move and moving up. But yeah, he's had a great career, and yeah, he's one of those people that I interviewed and was able to gather some information from that hopefully students or people that are just interested in media were able to learn from. Another great interview I've had was with a guy named Jason Goodwin. He's a news director. He was actually my last news director in Tyler. And he was able to share some great insight for people who want to go in the television realm and kind of what he looks for when hiring a new producer or a new
Oh.
reporter.
Oh, that's
So
great.
there's just a lot of little key areas. Another one of my favorites, which I mean, I learned so much from so many of them. I interviewed a woman who's an investigative reporter and does so much to help people in her community, truly giving those victims of crime who maybe don't have a voice. She truly is giving the voiceless a voice in the media, and in some regard has made major changes with laws and politically within her. Yeah, she's done some awesome stuff. Talked to a correspondent who works in Washington, D.C. So she's, at the Capitol every day doing stuff. And then one that really kind of stuck out to me, and I think it's probably just because she's been a mentor of mine forever, was my interview with Robin Hohweiler out of Oklahoma City. She's a morning news anchor at News 9. Right. And she was one of the first reporters, or I believe the first television reporter on the ground the day of the Oklahoma City bombing.
Oh, wow.
And so we were able to visit about that experience because of the anniversary that we just had this past April with the bombing. And so she was able to share kind of what that was like. And then she had some great advice and tips to offer folks that want to go into the journalism world. So I hope that, the information reaches some people, kind of just as an educational piece to give them kind of those, oh, okay, now I understand how that works, or, oh, now I know what I need to do to have a better chance of being successful in this industry, because it can be very competitive.
It
and
can.
So anything you can do to make yourself stand out, you definitely want to do.
Yeah.
And how many times a month do you release the podcast?
How often did I do it? I believe it was every 2 weeks.
Okay.
That we did it this last semester, and then didn't do anything during this summer, but then we've already got, I think, our first 3 guests booked for when we return to school, and we'll start those off again in September. First part of September is when we plan to start releasing those again.
Okay.
So,
well, I guess since you have students working, at least in the background, that you're not doing these over the summer break.
Right. I mean, I could. I mean, the facilities are there, and I could absolutely do it. But I had so much other stuff going on this summer. Yeah. I honestly was like, okay, well, this is a good place to end this season of the podcast, and then we'll resume it in the fall. Right. And so yeah, but I'm excited to start visiting with people again. It's funny because it doesn't matter how long you've been in this business, you can always learn something from somebody. And so, I've enjoyed that aspect of it as much as anything, is just visiting with folks who have unique experiences or have done different things than what I've done, and being able to learn from them.
Yeah. I agree. And I've learned a lot just, watching your podcast. I say watching because you do video. Well, Robin and I are moving to that. We didn't start out doing video, but we're moving
that's a whole new layer, doesn't it?
It is a whole new layer. That is no
from
joke.
Editing to setup. It's just
yes.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Well, I'm kind of interested in your family business, Plainview Brine. Is this? I'm assuming they're mining salt.
Well, it's specifically water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I mentioned, my family has a fairly large ranch and farming operation.
Yeah.
And they still do that. But probably, gosh, I can't even tell you what year. I would say maybe 10 years ago. My dad decided to drill a saltwater well and sell that water to the oil field industry, because they use that in the drilling process.
Sure.
And that honestly kind of exploded. And so we now have all of the water still comes from the location here near Freedom But we now have a trucking operation that we have 5 different locations here in the northwest part of the state. So our truckers take that brine to those tank locations, and then our customers are then able to pick up water from those tanks and then take it to their site where they are drilling for oil.
I see.
And so we do brine water, and then we also have a freshwater tank as well. And so that is used some for. I don't fully understand the mechanics behind it, but the fresh water is used more during the summer. Then as the temperatures get colder, they need heavier water to do what they do in the industry. So then they start buying more of the brine water as the temperatures get colder.
Oh.
And so that's primarily what that business is. And so honestly, the farming and ranching aspect of everything, that is kind of secondary now to the brine water, because it's really taken off, and we've got quite a few customers that we service in that realm.
I see. Okay.
All I think about is Snoopy Corner when you talk about water tanks. You know what I'm referring to?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm like, is that kind of what those were for? I don't.
It is exactly what those were for, and I am not sure if those are still in business or not. I believe they are.
Yeah.
But yes, that is exactly what we do.
Okay.
Yes.
I was wondering because I had a friend that I went to high school with. He was my brother's class, or 2 years older than me, and that he hauled water to basically. I think like you're talking about your truckers doing that. That's what he was doing, and he would. One time I went out with him during his like route to drop off all the water, and that was one of the places that we had stopped. And
to pick up the salt water first.
Yep, and then move it. So, and I guess in some that's Cimarron Junction, but if you're a local, that's Snoopy Corner. So
everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yep, everybody knows. Yep, if this, and it's called, if you don't, it's called Snoopy Corner because the Snoopy characters are painted on those tanks.
Oh.
So I'm like,
there's this great big white tanks that are there that are full of brine water, and the owner of it back years ago decided to paint Charlie Brown and Snoopy, and there's a couple of the other characters, on the front of the tanks.
Yeah. And then it became Snoopy Corner. I mean, that's what I always know.
What we know it as.
Yeah, we're meeting at Snoopy Corner or whatever. Because I had to do that a couple times. I'd meet my grandparents at Snoopy Corner for them to like give me stuff when I was in college. Because I grew up in Protection, Kansas, so it's an hour, but Snoopy Corner was halfway. So like, meet me at Snoopy Corner. So that's.
And they would say, okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's really interesting. I didn't know that your family was doing that. So that's great. Well, Jesse, I feel like I've asked all the questions that I wanted to ask you, and I look forward to when your masterclass Media Matters podcast starts back up, because I'm definitely a fan, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to Robin and I on our podcast here, and I'm sure we'll run across each other in some way, shape, or form down the road.
Well, absolutely. I appreciate you reaching out and inviting me to be a part of it. Now I'm going to have to do the same thing and visit with you on my podcast to get some information, and
Absolutely.
Maybe you can share some insight to help the current students figure out what they want to do with their lives in the media world.
I would love to, honestly. You just let me know. I'll be there, and I'll be sure to brush my hair.
I'll have my people call your people.
Okay, sounds good. That's great.
Yeah, we have those.
Well, again, thank you so much, Jesse. Appreciate it, and I look forward to talking with you in the future.
Yeah. Thanks for.
All right, you too. You guys have a good one.
You too. Thanks for spending part of your Sunday with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye. I hope everybody enjoyed that. As you may notice, the cameras went black, but
we're still here.
We're still here. Just no video.
Yeah. You don't have to look at me for the last, 5 minutes of this show. So good for you.
Everybody loves looking.
Because I got a face for radio, baby.
If you have any questions for either Mikey or myself about today's episode or any other darn thing, you can email us at mr.robin@mrrobinshood.com or Mikey@mrrobinshood.com.
Yeah, email me.
Yeah, she loves doing that.
I love to get the emails.
Yeah. Also, you can find us on Facebook at Mr. Robin's Hood Podcast. As always, you can reach out to Mikey or me via Podophone at 580-827-0472. Maybe you just want to get something off your chest or you're feeling some butt pain because of something we said during the podcast. Give us a call. Keep in mind that we aren't likely to answer, but you can leave a voicemail. Text us if you have a question, concern, complaint, compliment. That would be a switch.
Ooh.
Suggestion, whatever. Just don't be a dick about it.
Or do, and you can email Robin.
Yeah, Robin loves getting the dicks. Okay, in the meantime, tell all your friends to listen to this podcast as if their entire life depended upon it. As always, you can stream or download episodes of Mr. Robin's Hood Podcast, wherever you usually find that sort of nonsense. We're on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, the Podbean app, Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Listen Notes, and Podchaser. You can also stream them directly from our Podbean website at mrrobinshoodpodcast.podbean.com. For free. We don't charge. We're idiots. So we'll close now by reminding everyone, as we always do, to stay
hungry, stay foolish, and most importantly, stay weird. Bye.
Music.